5 of the NFL season. It's time to rank the weekly running backs. And guess what? We have bye weeks this week. Man, oh man, I hope you don't have Josh Jacobs. Although I hope you do because he just popped off against Dallas. The Packers are on bye. The Falcons are on bye. The Bears and the Steelers are on bye weeks. We'll keep everyone ranked because, as always, these rankings also incorporate rest of season, but mostly weekly. So we're going to talk about these guys throughout the ranking video. We have them in specific tiers. I'm going to give you guys the best buy, hold, sell advice. And we're going to go name by name, break down their stats as well. Christian McCaffrey continues to get 20 to 30 opportunities per game. A lot of them coming through the air. Take a look. He's still averaging 12 targets per game as long as he's doing that. Seems like the 49ers are not worried whatsoever about him re-aggravating any injuries in the past. He's averaging 24 points per game. Takes on the Los Angeles Rams. I'm all in, man. Jonathan Taylor had a heck of a game versus LA. Now you're thinking to yourself, JT did nothing against LA. We'll talk about him shortly. McCaffrey still remains number 1 in the rankings. Bijan Robinson. This guy is a stud, even with Algier eating like a pest. He's number 2. Now, he's number 2 in the rest of season rankings, maybe even over McCaffrey because I trust him to stay healthier more. But Bijan Robinson is on bye this week, so in terms of the weekly rankings, irrelevant. So actually, we're going to move him down to here. Jahmyr Gibbs. Taking a look at Jahmyr Gibbs, guys. The Detroit Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs, he looks solid. Now, this is what the week 4 rankings looked like, and we had Gibbs up there as an S-tier running back, and I'm not really motivated to change him even though he didn't have a 20-plus point game. He still had 18 points. He's averaging, 18 points over the first 4 weeks of the year, and really the only thing that wasn't there in week number 4 against Cleveland, he was rushing at an effective rate against a good Cleveland Browns front. He was getting the bulk of the carries compared to David Montgomery, who Montgomery looked bad in week number 4. Really, the target volume wasn't there. Only 2 targets, which is a bit unique. Look for him to get a big boost potentially in week 5 against a bad Bengals team. Jahmyr Gibbs looks solid where he is. Now, James Cook in S tier. I know a lot of other creators are not aggressively ranking James Cook like I am. Listen, man, fool me once, shame on me. Touchdown regression, okay. It's not regressing. Like, the touchdown rate is still there. He's averaging a touchdown per game or more. Until I see otherwise, I don't know why I would not have James Cook in S tier for rest of season and for weekly. Takes on the Patriots. The Patriots looked all right against Chuba Hubbard, but realistically, the Patriots at Sunday Night Football, James Cook is going to eat, and a salivating matchup versus the Falcons the week after. I like James Cook a lot, man. Go target this guy. Who would I rather have, Gibbs versus Cook? I think Cook has potentially a higher upside every week because he's the one getting all of the volume. Although Johnson and Ray Davis are slightly involved, Johnson especially in the receiving game, but I think Gibbs is still going to remain ahead of him just for now. Now, Jonathan Taylor is the top of A tier. He was my RB5 behind, Bijan was incorporated. Now, looking at JT, people are going to say, oh man, Jonathan Taylor had a bad game. Jonathan Taylor did nothing in week 4. You're wrong. 14 points, okay. Listen, Adonai Mitchell sold his touchdown catch, but he also sold the touchdown run. JT, 60-yard rushing touchdown called back by an Adonai Mitchell hold. This guy stinks. Not JT, AD. So Jonathan Taylor could have had a 30-point game. And also keep in mind, Tyler Warren had a rushing touchdown as well from the 1-yard line. So he had 2 touchdowns vultured. I don't really care about the Tyler Warren vulture touchdown. I care about the 60-yard run that was vultured. He's involved as a receiver. He had, look at that, 5 targets in week 4, 20 receiving yards. Jonathan Taylor, he might have to stay up here in the top of A tier. But I mean, if I'm comparing Jahmyr Gibbs and Cook and Jonathan Taylor, being realistic with you guys, I don't think Gibbs and Cook deserve to be up there with McCaffrey right now. I would probably keep Bijan up there in S tier. I like the ranking that we have right now, where I still like JT, I like Gibbs, I like James Cook. Now, looking at the matchup that Jonathan Taylor has in week 5 versus the Raiders, I'm a bit more of a fan of that than what we're seeing with Jahmyr Gibbs. So in terms of rest of season rankings, I liked how I had it, but weekly rankings, this is what I'm going to do. Jahmyr Gibbs falling just a bit. Devon Achane and the Dolphins. Now, I've yet to see them on Monday Night Football, so we will reserve the right to change these rankings accordingly. Takes on the Carolina Panthers. It's a good matchup. He's getting so many targets. It's like a mini version of McCaffrey. I like him where he is. Now, all of these guys you're still starting. Now, you can see I faded Saquon Barkley compared to a lot of other creators. And I was right. He disappointing in week number 4, salvages his week with a touchdown. He's yet to crack 20 points in a game. Now, Denver Broncos, tough matchup. I think after the Broncos game, we're going to see him start being a little bit more effective with the Giants twice in 3 weeks and Minnesota. But looking at Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown is complaining about not getting enough volume, even though he just had 9 targets and only caught 2. So A.J. Brown's crying like a baby to pass more. I mean, I don't know, man. Saquon Barkley, we're still going to have him up here in A tier, but the upside we've yet to see in 2025. Derrick Henry was also a name I was fading, and turns out that was another good idea right there. Derrick Henry had a modest week. Now, Lamar Jackson was out. Tough matchup versus the Chiefs. But looking at, since week 1, this guy dropped 30 in week 1. Since then, he's done absolutely nothing. We know he's not involved as a receiver. Now, the matchup is versus the Houston Texans. I think I'm going to slide Derrick Henry down the rankings to the bottom of A tier, and Hampton's going to be a big-time riser. So taking a look at Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs in the rest of the season rankings, I actually have him right where he is. Now, keep in mind, this guy is on a bye week. It's actually a good thing because he was banged up with his knee. Jacobs looked insane versus Dallas. You're happy if you have him. And it's a good timed bye week for him to get fully healthy. Amari Hampton is a big-time riser. Taking a look at what Amari Hampton did in week number 4, he got all the volume. He played, I think it was, let's say 55 out of 60 snaps. This guy was out there for the whole game. Back-to-back 25-point weeks. Receiving-wise, averaging 6 targets over the last 2 weeks. Now, sadly, you have Joe Alt with a high ankle sprain. So the Chargers, who projected out to have a top 5 offensive line, now project out to have a bottom 10 O-line, which hurts him for rest of season. Rest of season, I probably still have him right behind Bucky, maybe even behind Genty for that reason. But for this week specifically, Chargers taking on the Commanders. Big matchup. Let's see who Bucky Irving plays, but I actually have Hampton over Derrick Henry, believe it or not. Now, taking a look at Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving had 100-plus receiving yards against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a tough matchup, so it's Bucky Irving's best game of the season. They take on the Seattle Seahawks in a big-time matchup. They're 2.5-point dogs on the road. I think the Bucky Irving is going to have a good game right here. Between Bucky and Hampton, you're starting both of them, so it doesn't really matter what I do in between. Honestly, I'd rather have Hampton rest of season as well. Maybe that's aggressive. Maybe that's crazy. But Bucky Irving is going to potentially get vultured by Rachaad White. We saw that in week 3 when Rachaad White vultured a game-winning touchdown. Derrick Henry deserves to be where he is. Now, Kyren Williams is falling the wrong direction. His snap rate's going down. Blake Corum's getting more involved. And you can see Kyren Williams, 14, 10, 19, 10. So by the rate this is going, he should drop 25 points versus San Francisco 49ers on a short week on Thursday Night Football. But I'm still going to keep him down here in B tier. Ashton Genty, do we rise him up to A tier? If Derrick Henry is up there in A tier, Ashton Genty deserves to be there as well. But I honestly think that Derrick Henry and Genty should be in like A-. So keep that in mind. Henry and Genty in A- tier. Let's not overreact to one game from Genty. Nothing has changed. The O-line still sucks. The offense still sucks. Geno still does not look good. So don't overreact here, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. A lot of it was touchdowns, though. Chase Brown, I've yet to see. Chase Brown could potentially get nuked all the way down to C tier. In fact, I'm going to anticipate that. Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason sold the parlay, man. Now, Jordan Mason gets all of the volume again. Aaron Jones is out. But Jordan Mason has a modest game. He still gets 16 carries, relatively decently effective, but only 3 targets. You have Xavier Scott out of the backfield getting a bulk of opportunities. Concerning. Now, Javonte Williams, I aggressively ranked. I still have Javonte up there with Kyren Williams, ahead of Kyren Williams, to be honest. In an overtime game, we're seeing Javonte average 20-plus opportunities a game. And he's making the most of it. This guy deserves to be a potential trade target. Buy him high. This guy looks like he's back from the injury. He's got the athleticism back. He was a good prospect coming into the league. He looks good. Alvin Kamara, you're a little bit nervous here because Kendre Miller gets 11 rushes. Now, Kamara still was the receiving back. Kamara still had more opportunities. But you're definitely concerned if you are a New Orleans Saints running back owner with Alvin Kamara. Best case scenario is potentially the Saints trade him over to the Chiefs, because the Saints are obviously tanking. The Chiefs would need a running back. So that's something to consider there, but I don't know if we can have Kamara this high. Now, who can go higher, right? Like Warren? With Kenneth Gainwell's emergence, he'll probably have to fall. So I honestly don't like what I have here in B tier. I think Jordan Mason deserves to be in C tier after a modest week in week number 4. Potentially higher, like I think This is really where things get tough in B tier. Who deserves to be B tier? Who deserves to be C tier? Quinshon Judkins with another solid week, man. This guy against the Detroit Lions and the Packers, 17 points, 22 points. He keeps building and building. He had more targets, more receiving yards. Judkins should be up there ahead of Alvin Kamara in terms of weekly rankings and rest of season. Looking at his matchup, the Minnesota Vikings, yeah, I'll take that. Kenneth Gainwell just dropped a lot of yards on their head. I have Judkins right up there in the top of B tier. And you know what? This Kyren Williams does not excite me as much as Judkins and Javonte does. So I'm actually going to bump him down a little bit in these rankings. And now I'm starting to like where things are. Now, Kamara, Mason, Brown could honestly all be down here in C tier with the rest of these guys. And I think they deserve to be. You know, I'm going to have Kamara, Mason, and Brown all down here in C tier. Honestly, Chase Brown's going to have more opportunities than Kamara most likely. Chuba deserves to be where he is. Jaylen Warren, I'm going to bump him down just for the fact that he trolled a lot of fantasy owners in the Sunday morning game. He definitely lost a lot of people a lot of weeks. Now, Trey Benson. We saw Trey Benson's new floor. Now, these are the important rankings. This is where you guys are deciding who to start and who to flex and all that stuff. So Trey Benson's new floor is 10 points, right? He had 5 receptions, which you really like to see. He was heavily involved as a receiver. Only 8 carries, less than when James Conner was healthy. It boggles my mind. Now, the concerning thing is you have 26-year-old Emery DeMarcado getting the game-winning touchdown. How involved is he going to be? That will be very, very frustrating. So, Trey Benson versus the Titans. I really like the matchup. My brain is saying leave Trey Benson, somewhere around here. Now, just for the fact that I want to believe it before I see it, I'm going to have to bump him down. So, Travis Etienne, not as involved as a receiver recently as you would like. Only 1 reception over the last 2 weeks. Bashal Tutin is still out there, but Etienne seems to be the guy for this Jaguars rushing offense. They take on the Kansas City Chiefs. They just destroyed Derrick Henry. What is Etienne going to do? Potentially be more involved as a receiver. It's a Monday Night Football game. I think I'm still going to bump Cam Scatabo ahead. Why? Well, with Malik Neighbors down, the number 1 offensive weapon for this New York Giant team, aside from Jackson Dart's rushing ability, is Cam Scatterbaum. I'm going to have to call him Cam Scatterbaum, even though this guy's a dog, so just keep in mind. The nickname's just there. So Cam Scatterbaum, he's averaging, look at that, 13 points, 24 points, 13 points. It's reliable. Looking at the targets, he only had 2 targets, so I feel like he's going to get more involved as a receiver against the New Orleans Saints. Such a good matchup that I'm actually going to bump him up. The top of C tier, Scatabo should be in your lineup without a doubt. Kenneth Walker has been more efficient than Zach Charbonnet, but Zach Charbonnet has been vulturing goal line touchdowns. Short week. I guess it's actually a long week because the Seahawks played earlier, right? So maybe it's not a short week for Seattle, but they do play on Thursday Night Football. I have him ranked accordingly. I think it's fair. Now, I've yet to see Breece Hall. He's projected 83 total yards on Monday Night Football. Taking a look at where I have him ranked, I think it's pretty fair, potentially swapping him with Pollard. Because Pollard, the Titans offense, Cam Ward came out there. And Cam Ward, this was a quote from Cam Ward. We are booty cheeks. That's literally what he said, word for word, except for the last word replaced with someone else. Pollard has a high floor, but I'm not excited. Like, you're not actually, unless you're getting a touchdown, he's getting 10 points. So this is the new DeAndre Swift. He should be down there with DeAndre Swift in terms of the rankings. Yet to see Dobbins as well, but I feel like this is a pretty solid ranking in C tier. I'm a lot happier with where it is than where we started. Now, David Montgomery, we were fading him coming into the week. There's better days ahead. Now, he had such a bad game that you might be concerned about the volume. He actually still got decent volume in week number 4. He only had 1 point, but he had 9 carries, nothing out of the receiving game. Definitely his worst game of the year. Look for him to bounce back in a big way versus the Bengals. I actually would still trust David Montgomery as a flex player this week. But I'd still have him behind Swift just because the floor is higher on the guys ahead of him. Travion Henderson, 12-point Travion, right? Now, you might be saying to yourself, do you trust 12-point Travion? He had a breakout game. Stop lying to yourself. This was a touchdown-dependent 13 points. He still was outsnapped by Ramondre. Antonio Gibson got the touchdown. Frustrating is the name of the game. Now, versus the Bills, they're going to get their butt kicked on Sunday Night Football here. Now, I thought that about the Saints and Dolphins, and the Bills didn't cover the spread, so who knows? But I do expect a lot more dump downs, whether it's Ramondre or Trevion getting it. I don't know, but I can't rank him in D tier. But that means I'm going to have to change the... Listen, it's called irrelevant. I ain't changing it. We all know Travion's not irrelevant here. I have to put him in D tier because I'm not changing that, bro. But Travion Henderson, I'm not excited starting him. Couple other guys we gotta rank. Ramondre, irrelevant. Charbonnet, irrelevant. This is the tier of premium handcuff backs. So Nick Chubb, I think he's now a premium handcuff back. To who? Well, listen up. I don't have Woody Marks as a player image. Who do I have? Joe Mixon. Now he's a ghost. We haven't heard a single word about him. But Woody Marks is here, and Woody Marks just dropped 25 points. I'd rather start Woody Marks than Travion Henderson in week number 5. Now, I think Woody Marks has a higher ceiling. I think they're both interchangeable in my eyes, but we've seen Woody Marks do it, and we haven't seen Travion do it. So with that said, I'm putting Woody Marks up there in D tier, surprisingly. You have JCM in a 3-person committee. He looks like the best one there, but realistically, it's not looking good. Tracy is now hurt with the ankle sprain. Pacheco. Did Pacheco have an okay game? Did he salvage anything? Bashal Tuden is potentially... Tuden would still be down there somewhere in the irrelevant tier. I'm looking for Isaiah Pacheco to see what did Pacheco do. I saw him get a nice reception. You can see he had 2 catches, 13 yards. His best game of the year, 13 points. I don't know. It must have been off of a touchdown, man, because I ain't seeing anything too pretty. So, we'll put Pacheco down here in the top of the irrelevant tier, because with bye weeks you might have to reach down to Pacheco, to Chubb, and maybe even Ramondre. Charbonnet's a premium handcuff back. Right behind Charbonnet should be Algier, because Algier seems to be in the tier with Charbonnet where he can pop off at any given week, even if his starter is healthy, but you still don't want to start him. Treat him as a premium handcuff. I think I'd rather have Charbonnet and Algier than Bill, to be completely honest, although JCM is one more injury away. You can say one more injury away from being a true starter, but I think they would just trade for somebody like Breece Hall. They'd probably go get Breece Hall. So that is something to consider. The rest of these rankings in the sad tier, we're going to put Rachaad White up here as a premium handcuff back as well. If Bucky Irving wants to go down, you will be starting Rachaad White. Now, looking at anyone else to rank, I really don't think so, guys. Now, did I miss any of the bye weeks that we were talking about? We have the Steelers on bye, so Jaylen Warren is irrelevant. So just keep that in mind. I'm not gonna change it. We're gonna keep these rankings, and you guys can make the you're listening to my voice, so you know about the bye weeks. So we have the Bears on bye week, so Swift is now irrelevant from this. Kyle Monaghan also should be down here in the sad tier, maybe even in the irrelevant tier. Because I know I'm calling it irrelevant. He's not actually irrelevant. He's a good waiver wire pickup. DeAndre Swift's role is decreasing. Monaghan is increasing. Just keep in mind, Swift is also on a bye week. And then, the Steelers. Kenneth Gainwell. I would also throw up there right between Ramondre, Charbonnet, and Algier. And Caleb Johnson, he's a bum. He's a nobody, right? So keep that in mind moving forward. Is there anybody that we are missing at first glance from the rankings? I think we got most of the guys that I wanted to cover. When you start reaching down to this tier of Dylan Sampson, Braylon Allen, you're cooked, buddy. You are cooked. So there it is. That is the week 5 running back rankings. I'm going to go cook up wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, defense next. Thanks for watching.